Hi, I'm Cameron Humphreys from Humphreys Outdoor Power, and today we are going to take a look at the middle of the road for Kubota zero-turn lawn mowers. I'm talking about in between the small residential and the high commercial grade. We've got what's the 400 series, which is that prosumer model that's heavier duty than the residential, not quite commercial, although I do have some customers who use them as such. But today we're going to do a dive into the Z400 series from Kubota. Let's dive in. So like I said, today we're taking a look at the Z400 series from Kubota. They make these models in a 48-inch, 54-inch, and 60-inch, and then they also make them with and without a suspension seat. So for example, the Z411 48 is a 48-inch, the Z412 is a 48-inch with a suspension seat and a little bit bigger bearings. That's basically going forward going to be the difference between the 421 series and the 422 series and the 411 series and the 412 series is that the bigger number, so in this case the 412 over the 411, has a suspension seat and a little bit bigger bearings on it. The 422 over the 421 has a suspension seat and a little bit bigger bearings on it. But the main thing that you're going to notice as a difference between the kind of lower end models without the suspension seat and the other models is just that, it's the suspension seat. So when you're looking at these things, realize that whatever discrepancy there is in price, the majority of that price is in the suspension seat. One of the other differences is that on the Z411 48 and the 421 54, the two smaller models with a regular seat, you've got a 5-inch wide tire versus a 6.5-inch wide tire on kind of the suspension seat versions of both of those. That's going to help your ride a little bit. It's going to give you a little bit more cushion, a little bit more air in those semi-pneumatic tires. So while we're talking about front tires, these are semi-pneumatic, which means they're very thick with an air core, which is going to give you a nice quality ride and hopefully limiting the threat of any kind of puncture breaking through all the way. Like I said, they make these in a 48, 54, and 60-inch deck. The particular one we're looking at here is the 422 model with the suspension seat and the 60-inch deck. This is one of our most popular models by far. That 60-inch for us, living a little bit more rurally, we've got a lot of customers who are 3, 5, 10 plus acres. That 60-inch deck typically is a beautiful fit to kind of maximize your width without gouging the grass or hitting any undulations or anything like that, where a 72 or bigger could potentially do some of those things. But 60-inch is very popular for us, but again, we've got customers who have kind of larger than average yards. All of these machines are going to be powered by a Hydrogear Z400 transaxle, which is going to give you a top speed of about 10 miles per hour. So faster than your average residential machine, not quite as quick as like our Z726 or Z781, but certainly an upgrade over the typical residential lawnmower. As we're looking at this unit, one of the coolest features, and we've kind of touched on this with some of the other mowers they make, but this is no exception. We've got this easy pull-out foot platform so we can get to the deck. These are all sealed bearings in here, so we don't want to pressure wash it, but if you blow it out with a leaf blower after every use, get some of that debris out, kind of protect that belt, we find that's a good way to keep the belts lasting longer than they typically would, and just proper lawnmower maintenance. But you have that easy access panel, which makes it nice. While we're here, you also have a sight glass for your fuel, so you know where you're at there. There's no gauge or anything. Again, that's something we would see more on a commercial grade machine. However, the sight glass is nice, and again, can be an upgrade off of some of the more residential machines. The 412 and the 422s, both in 54 and 60, have these really nice suspension seats on them. So we can adjust the tension on this to make it more firm or more soft depending on your weight or your comfort level. So you can hop on here and you can see there's quite a bit of up and down here. One of the other really popular things about this machine is the deck lift system. So rather than having a pin or something that you have to bend down and do, Kubota basically makes it so you don't have to bend down for anything. We have a dial right here, so we set our height. So right now, as always, 3 inches. And then I'm going to reach forward, kick that forward, and then I'm down to my 3-inch mark. If I want to put that unit back on a trailer or something, I can just shove that forward, it locks up, and then I can turn this dial to whatever I want. Now you can also kind of do a half push. So if I'm at 3 inches and say, hey, this is too high or too low, I want to go to 3.5, I can do about halfway, turn it, and then set it down, and I'm at 3 inches without having to extend it all the way. On this dash, we also have our choke, because this is a carbureted engine. We're running a 24 horsepower Kawasaki carbureted engine. Excellent engines. We've had nothing but success out of them. Stand by the Kawasaki's forever and ever and ever. But carbureted, so this is your choke, throttle, and then your PTO engagement for your blades, which we aren't going to turn on today. Now, when you're running this machine, you are going to be wanting to run it at full throttle as you would with any air-cooled engine. That's going to optimize both your blade tip speed and the amount of air that the engine's sucking into the engine to keep it running more efficiently. Next to that, we have our fuel tank. It's a 6.8 gallon tank on this 60-inch version, so quite a bit of fuel capacity, decent fuel mileage while we're working. Again, no one ever wants to publish that because it can vary so much from yard to yard, hills, how fast you're mowing, all of those things are variable to that, but I have found that in general for a gas machine it gets average, maybe slightly better than average fuel consumption. We have already touched briefly on the engine. Again, a 24 horse Kawasaki FS 730V engine, carbureted, air-cooled. You've got easy access to your air cleaner on the back. You've got easy access to your oil filter on the side, so if you're a DIYer, you want to change your own oil, that kind of stuff, you certainly can do that. They've got a drain plug on the side. You can loosen that, and it's even got a nozzle so you can get a little hose extender. There's a hole in the frame down there, so you can put that hose in, stick it down the frame, and drain it directly into whatever you're using to collect your oil. Your dipstick's right here, super accessible. And then on the other side, we have our battery, which again, really easy to get to. You are also going to notice this white tank. So this guy is your transaxle overflow fluid. So it's got lines on it, but essentially all we want to do is be able to see that there's some in there. That level is going to fluctuate with temperature. So it's going to move on us, even though the amount of fluid's actually not moving. It's just how that's expanding with heat. So all we want to do is check this before every use to make sure that we're seeing some oil in there. Now, if it's really, really low, you may want to throw a little bit in there, but essentially all we need to do is see any oil because it's the overflow tank. So if there's oil in there, that means there's oil in the transaxle. While we're down here on the back end, I think it's one of the important selling features of this machine is how well it does on hills relative to a lot of other machines. Part of that is how low it sits to the ground, but the other part is how wide this back end is. So if we're looking from tire to tire here, we're 54 inches wide, which is going to help you on those hillsides and slopes. Now, like I always say, I mean, no zero turn's great on a hill because all your weight's on the back end. You don't have anything gripping on the front. Those wheels are just up there doing their own thing. But having that wide back end and a little bit lower center of gravity makes this one of our better hill climbers. So again, looking at this as this is the 60-inch deck. We're at 73.6 inches wide with this chute on it. So you can take, well, we don't really recommend taking the chute off, but you can do certain things to make it so you can move it up and down while you're loading on your trailer. But if you don't want to have to do that, you need to have a trailer that's at least 73.6 inches wide for the 60-inch version. Shorter, obviously, for the smaller deck sizes. The weight on this machine is 954 pounds, and it goes all, that's for the biggest 60 with the suspension seat, the one we're looking at here. And that goes all the way down to 874 pounds for the non-suspension 48-inch version, the Z400 I think one of the other important things to look at, especially when you're looking at lawn mowers towards a residential or again like this mid-tier, you want to see how well the deck's reinforced. Now this is a heavy-duty deck. It's all welded, completely fabricated. It puts a beautiful mow job on, and the biggest indicator of that's going to be the depth right here. So the depth of the deck is the biggest indicator. As that creates more airflow, it's going to pull the grass up and give you a nice clean cut under it. It's the same as if you go to a barber, they take the comb and pull your hair up. This is how good of a comb job you're getting versus some of the smaller ones that are just kind of, pulling it up a little bit, and then you end up with grass that's various lengths because some of it was laying down, it wasn't all getting sucked up. But one of the things you want to look at is how well reinforced these gauge wheels are right here. So these aren't actually meant to run on the ground, they're just meant to catch the deck to keep the deck from digging into the ground. And since they're doing that, these things end up, especially being out kind of on the edge, on this side, especially with the cutting edge, these things tend to hit a lot of things just by accident. And so the brackets around them are important. And this is a dual bracket on both sides. A lot of the cheaper, more residential models are only going to have one bracket with the wheel hanging off, and those things bend the first time you bump into something, whereas this guy's going to be a little bit heavier duty than most. So this has been our in-depth look at the Z422. Again, one of our most popular lawnmowers that we sell because it's in that in-between realm between the residential, your cheapy mowers, and the higher, more expensive commercial grade. So this checks a lot of boxes for a lot of folks and gives you like one step above what typically most people need. But that means it's going to last longer, provided you take care of it, of course. But superior cutting quality, all of the things that you're looking for in a lawnmower. So highly recommend it. If nothing else, go check out your nearest dealer and see if they've got a demo. Give it a shot for sure. I recommend upgrading to that suspension seat version. It's not that much more expensive, typically $400 or $500 more to go to that version. So highly recommend that. And it's like an $800 seat. So I mean, they're basically giving it to you at cost there, which is a very good upgrade, and your back's going to thank you for it. So speaking of thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Comment down below if there's anything you want to see a video on, and make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. In the meantime, you have a great day. Thanks.